with her story, Adventures in the Lunchroom. Please welcome to the masked stage, Sue Morton.
Hey, can you all hear me? Oh, good, because I trip over wires when I have microphones. Thank you for inviting me. This is fun. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to move that mic out of the way.
You can turn it off.
There's a switch. So, once upon a time, a long time ago, but not really so very long ago, in a faraway place, well, not so really very far away. On the third day after Christmas, I entered the world as the second-born child of a mixed marriage. My twin brother came 13 minutes later, so I always got the card first. A mixed marriage. My dad was a strong Irish Catholic. My mother was not. So, there were other differences between them. Dad was an engineer, an efficiency expert, lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserve, a man who had a task list for his children that was scheduled, and a job jar for Saturday mornings. A list when you walked out the door at the age of 16 that said, what is your name? Where are you going? What time did you leave? Who are you going with? Do you have enough money to put gas in the car? And what time will you be home? So everything was ordered in our house. Except when Dad was gone, because Mom, being a very creative person, was an artist and a writer. All right, so yin and yang. My left brain goes this way and my right brain goes that way, and I'm always a struggle. I color outside the lines and then I feel guilty about it. So, it's part of the genetic makeup. But the one thing they did have in common was they wanted us all to go to Catholic school. Now, Mom was very creative. And I found out later in life that my dad was too, but he kind of hid it. But I tell you one thing she wasn't very good at, cooking. A good example of this is something that she made. Well, she was an efficient cook. A little tight with the money when she cooked. So every Saturday morning before she went grocery shopping, she'd get up and she would open the fridge and she would pull out all the leftover meat. Little chicken, little pork, little beef, little bologna, little hot dog, whatever was in there. She would get out remember that big iron grinder that you screwed onto the cupboard and you put, and it left that ugly mark in the cupboard. Grind up all that meat. Yummy. Get out a jar of cheap, not mayonnaise, salad dressing. Throw a cup of that in. Big dollop of pickle relish. And she'd hard boil as many eggs as she needed to feed 8 people in the family. Chop them up, put it in. She called it mock chicken salad. Oh. You know when you open a can of dog food, the reaction you get? Well, anyway, she was creative, but not a creative cook. Anyway, they both wanted us to go to Catholic school. So they sent us to St. Patrick's School. Now, envision this school. It was built in 1863. It's a big brick box, 2 stories high. And you walk in the front door. Well, let's not walk in the front door because we weren't allowed to walk in the front door. You had to go in the back door. Into this hall that's as wide as this area. And 4 boards that echoed, like yodelers in the Alps when you walked on. Here was the 1st grade, here was the 2nd grade, here was the 3rd grade. By the way, Sister Joseph taught the 3rd grade. And Sister Joseph taught my dad in the 3rd grade. And all 6 of us children. 1st grade, the lunchroom. And 4th grade. Then you could venture upstairs for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. You could go downstairs to the back door to get to the boys' bathroom, or you could go downstairs from the front door to get to the girls' bathroom. Big old school, echoed all over the place. All right, so here we are, St. Patrick's School. An hour and a half we had for lunch. Why did we have an hour and a half for lunch? Well, we lived in a town of 65,000 people, big city, Kokomo, Indiana. But everybody went home for lunch. So every morning we got up and we walked to school, went to Mass, lunchtime, we walked back home, we had lunch, we walked back to school, and then we walked home after school. Okay? So we had an hour and a half, because we didn't have a cafeteria. We had a lunchroom. Lunchroom, long tables, long benches. On this side were these windows that started about here and went up to here, and you could never get them open. Under them all were radiators. So if you sat at a table close to the radiator, you burned your leg. But if you sat over here, you froze to death. Who used the lunchroom? The kids that rode the bus. Who were the kids that rode the bus? Only the kids that lived outside the city limits. So we had an hour and a half for lunch. It was awesome when you stayed at school to have lunch. But most of the time we went home for lunch. Because I got a little bit older, I kind of liked staying at school for lunch and eating in the lunchroom. And I liked that because I could eat in 10 minutes and get out the door and have the rest of the hour and a half to have fun and play out in the playground. So along about 1956, when I was in the 4th grade, my best friend, Candy Elliott, they never did find a saint that she was named after. There's no Saint Candy. But my best friend, Candy Elliott, who was somewhat of a troublemaker, we used to get in a lot of trouble together. And I had decided that we would just start bringing our lunch to school every day, because that would give us more time to go out on the playground and have fun. And by the way, in the 4th grade, Sister Timothy came to St. Pat's School, and Sister Timothy was a baseball player. So now the girls were allowed to play baseball, and I was a baseball player. So if I ate my lunch at school, I could waste no time. I could get out on the playground. See, you're looking quizzical, because you see, Catholic school, the girls sat here, the boys sat here on the playground, the boys played here, the girls played here, and never the twain shall mix. It was a rule. It was a rule. So one day we decided we were going to have lunch at school. So my mom packed my lunch, and she put it in my Annie Oakley lunchbox. Annie Oakley lunchbox. Really cool stuff. And off I went to school. Lunchtime comes, and Candy and I rush into the lunchroom, and we find this wonderful place to sit over in the corner. Now, we open up our lunches, and we start to eat. Well, Candy starts to eat. She's got a bologna and ketchup sandwich, a Twinkie, a little bag with some real chocolate chips in it, and Kool-Aid in her thermos. And I pull my lunch out, and I've got a thermos full of really warm milk, a box of raisins. I'm the little girl that used to pick raisins out of the cinnamon rolls, and a mock chicken salad sandwich. I thought, I can't eat this. I couldn't drink it. Everybody wanted it. So Candy says, let me think about this. I can come up with a plan, because we've got to get out there. The baseball game is starting in 10 minutes. I said, okay. So we contemplate for a while how we're going to solve this problem. And pretty soon Candy says, I got it. I got it. She says, I'm going to go talk to Sister Pascal. Well, Sister Pascal was the 8th grade nun. Now, her job was to be the lunchroom nun, which meant that she stood in the doorway, okay, and checked every bag and every lunchbox as you left, to make sure you had eaten everything in it. And you know why you had to eat everything in it? Because if you didn't, Larry, all the children in China would starve. Okay. So, Sister Pascal stood about 6'2" without her habit. She was a large, large woman. Now, back in the day, it's when nuns wore habits. She had this long black robe, and they wore these tall, heavy black shoes, rosary, wooden rosary around her waist, the stiff collar, the tall habit that came down and squished her face like that, and a big long veil. And you know why she was the 8th grade teacher? Because she was in charge of the 8th grade boys. Oh, speaking of 8th grade boys, I was in love. I had a crush on one of them. His name was Terry Bridwell. He looked like he had just walked right off the album of the Beach Boys.
Oh.
Oh my Lord, little fourth grader, you know, madly crushed about this. Anyway, that's another story altogether. But I did make good friends with his sister Elizabeth, so I could be closer to him. Yeah, anyway, so Candy goes up and she feigns a tummy ache. She was a good actress. With Sister Pascal. And Sister Pascal's checking her out and everything. Well, in the meanwhile, Candy had pointed out to me that over in this corner, there was a hole in the floor. So I went on over there, and I took my sandwich and I stuffed it down the hole. And I poured that box of raisins down that hole, and I opened up that thermos and stuffed it all down the hole, put it all back together, closed my lunchbox, and got ready to leave, and walked right over, and by then Candy says, well, I think I'm feeling better. And Sister Pascal says, open the box. I opened the box. Very good. And out we went to play. Everything worked out just hunky-dory. Well, I hadn't been out there for about 10 minutes or so. Then Sister Pascal sent my brother, who had also stayed for lunch that day, out to get me. That's how they did it in Catholic school. If you threw up in Catholic school, then your brother cleaned it up. I mean, that's just how it worked. It just worked that way. It was a community. You know, we worked together. So Sister Pascal wants to see you. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe she's got something fun I can do. You know, she wants me to clean erasers. Oh, gosh, that was so much fun to clap those erasers together and clean the erasers. So I go scurrying in, and there's Sister Pascal, and she's standing like this. And right next to Sister Pascal is Terry Bridwell. Now, he's got mock chicken salad running down over his face. It's dotted with raisins, and the milk is dripping off of his mouth, his nose, and his ears. You see, the hole in the floor over there went straight